If you can't put 10% of your money, of your earnings back into yourself, you're not going to grow.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Jason, which is the founder of Survivor Garden Seeds. So Jason, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make the first million?
Harry, there's a lot more than just 5 steps, but I'm going to give you some good information to give people that want to learn how to do a business and give them some steps that will help them. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is your belief system. If you're not constantly feeding your mind full of good information and good books, I mean, there's lots and tons of self-help books out there, but I have a few key authors that I've followed who have mentored me. The likes of Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy, they're classics, but their stuff, I mean, you can go to a more modern one, but it's all the same stuff. They're regurgitating, they're presented it in different ways to help you. You know, you may resonate with a Brian Tracy or a Darren Hardy or a Jim Rohn or a Tony Robbins. I personally don't resonate with all of those. I resonate with a few of them and I like their information. And so I'm constantly feeding my mind, and I take time on a regular basis. I try to do it daily to take 10 pages and read in a good book. So if I could say I was 100% consistent at this, I'd be lying. But it's always great to just be always listening. I don't listen to the radio or music when I'm driving. I'm always listening to a podcast or some type of educational material to help you grow your mind. Because knowledge is power. Without knowledge and that belief system, you can't grow to what you can't even imagine. It's a spiritual thing. You have to believe it and create it spiritually before you can create it in this world.
Wow,
So
really powerful.
That's the big thing is just always feed your mind and always be looking to God and recognize his hand in all you do. If you think it's you that's doing it, you're not going to get very far. So yeah, I think that's step number 1 or pillar number 1.
Pillar number 1.
Yes.
So what would be the second pillar, Jason?
You're going to get beat up in this world. You're going to have your ups and downs. You never give up. There's one instance where I was in my mid-20s. I had already done the business and sold it, and we were on to our second business, and I was flipping homes, and my brother-in-law and I, we had 256 units of apartments from Oklahoma to Arizona to Michigan, and I thought I was on top of the world. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And I'm in early or mid-20s, and 2008 hit us, and we didn't go unscathed. And we were able to get out of that, but it took a lot, and it emotionally, it hit me. It hit me in not just the financial side, but emotionally and mentally. So you got to learn how to get back up off the horse that bucks you off and keep going. And it's interesting, as that happened, I was like, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to get this going? I mean, I had $5 million worth of loans on my head that I was responsible for, that I was just like, okay, how am I going to make this go? Anyways, worked through it. And I was able to figure out a way to pay the bills that I thought was just going to be a short-term gig. As I figured out what I was going to do long-term, it ended up being a 15-year ride. And it was a very good ride and paid me very well. It was in the home furnishings industry. And I got into there, and we started out of our garage, and we got kicked out of our garage to go into a retail strip mall, and pretty soon we had 6 retail stores, and I sold my first ones off, and I started some up I moved from down south up north, started another one, and it was a good ride. And a couple of years ago, I was it wasn't my passion. My passion is building businesses and creating systems and implementing them to help people go. And part of that building systems is a financial literacy. My background is historically, I went to school, I got my accounting degree and became a CPA. I went to work for an accounting firm, Ernst and Young. And it wasn't my cup of tea, but it was the financial literacy in there has helped me immensely in my background. So I think that you call that another pillar is financial literacy. Do you have to go get a CPA or go to formal schooling to get that? No, there's lots of ways that you can learn. That's that constantly feeding your mind. If you're not feeding your mind and you're like, well, I'm too late in life. I'm not going to go to school. I'm not going to go be a CPA or an accountant or a finance person. You don't need to. Just go start reading. There's lots of information out there. Feed your mind with that. So the financial literacy is a huge part of, I would say, of my success as we've grown business from scratch, sold them. Even before I did the apartments, while I was in college, I went out and did door-to-door sales. I feel like if you can learn how to sell, you can do anything. That's when I was introduced to Brian Tracy. And one of my first books that I remember is Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And that was my little Bible. And then I found The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. And I would be
It's
driving
amazing,
around.
Brian Tracy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
listened to him a lot. Yeah,
yeah. He's
long time
a
ago.
good one.
Yeah,
And I met
brilliant.
him in person once, and he was a great mentor to me. Um, but if you can learn how to sell, I was doing door-to-door sales, which was hard, but I succeeded at it and I did very well. And I'm going to back up clear to my childhood and say, what makes you a good salesman? It's learning how to get out of your comfort zone. If you can't get out of your comfort zone, you're never going to become a great salesperson. Quick story. So when I was 8 years old, my father took me around. I was in the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and he took me around and had me go to all the neighbors and sell them these Scoutorama tickets. And I was the best seller of that. And I'm like, well, why did that happen? My dad was not a salesman, but he inspired in me to get out of my comfort zone. We would grow a garden as a kid, and we'd grow these big old pumpkins and big old watermelons. And what happened is my dad's like, hey, you need to save money for college and for your mission. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we go on missions when we're 19 years old. And so I said, okay, we're going to start. So we grew these big watermelons. And in order to save money for them, I go to the neighbors before in the springtime and say, hey, will you pledge to pay me so much per pound for a watermelon that I'm going to deliver you in 3 or 4 months? That was embarrassing to me as a kid. But my dad taught me, hey, he put me into these situations and helped me grow and get through them, that I learned to do uncomfortable things. Whether it's getting neighbors pledges for these watermelons, whether it's going to Scoutorama tickets as an 8-year-old Cub Scout and doing that. And then
You have to be able to deal with rejection, right? Which is
rejection.
really hard when people say no, and you cannot
Yeah,
make it personally. You have to move on, right?
yeah. And then after I graduated high school, I went on a mission for my church, and I learned a lot about rejection at that point in time in South America. And I came home and I did door-to-door sales, which is even more rejection. But it was a numbers game, and the more doors you pound, and if I'm running between doors, I did really well. I was one of the top salesmen first year. Second year, I started my own business.
Wow.
Actually, no, the third year I started my own business. Second year as team lead, and third year we started our own marketing company and the service business, and we did that while I was in college. And actually hired my parents to be the office work and do the technical, out in the field. And we hired other employees, and I found an investor, which was my brother-in-law, and we just made it go. And that I remember after the first year doing that, my friend who I had sold for the first year, he's like, hey, come do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I hated it. He's like, well, where else are you going to make that type of money? I'm like, well, you're right. As a 22 or a 21-year-old kid, let's go do it. And so I just dove into it, and that background of getting out of my comfort zone, learning how to sell, and it put all the confidence in me that I could do anything I wanted in this world. I don't care if I'm competing against a Harvard educated person or Yale or these big Ivy League universities. It doesn't matter. They're no smarter than me. It's how hard they can work and how there's definitely intelligence in this, but having that financial literacy and that ability to sell was a huge part of my foundation, I think, in the business world. And that was my very first, I can't say it's my first business, because as a teenager I had lawn mowing businesses, and I was a paper boy, which was my own business, and all those type of things. But that, after graduating high school, doing that, the service business and starting that was awesome. Gave me tons of confidence, and from there we've done lots of different things.
So, Jason, the third pillar would be learn how to sell then.
Yeah, absolutely. Learn how to sell.
I love it. Yeah, really powerful. And you're 100% right. Learn how to get uncomfortable and learn how to sell and go for it and learn how to deal with rejection, right? Because at the end of
Absolutely.
the day, this is part of this. It comes with the job. If you want to be in business, you want to be an entrepreneur. Couple of more pillars, Jason.
Okay. The other thing is, as you're getting into business and doing this, you've got to take, it's easy to work 18 hours a day. At least it is for me. If you're not taking that self-care and taking breaks, you got to slow down to speed up. That self-care is huge. The things that I like to do, I like to go mountain biking. I like to hike. Those are things. I hate going to a gym. It's not me. It's just not the way I'm built.
Me
But
too. By the way, I'm on that one. I hate it. Yeah, just for clarification.
but this morning, I woke up, it was negative 11 degrees outside. Am I going to go out mountain biking or hiking in this weather? No. I have a little app on my phone. I did a 20-minute workout and got me sweating, got my stuff moving. So self-care is huge, whether it's exercise. I try to do lots of different things, not just physically, but nutritionally. I try to eat well, try to keep off sugars. I'm not perfect at it. I meditate every day for 20 minutes, which is huge. I do my personal study in other books, scripture and other books. And that self-care, if you're not feeding your mind continually, I'm 48, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm almost pushing 50. I just think if I had done this consistently from when I was 18, I'd be so much better. But I feel very
Absolutely.
fortunate to have done what I have done to help me have grown to where I'm at now. And the crazy thing is after selling a couple businesses and getting to the point where, like, oh, okay, I understand the language of business. Focus. I've always had these shiny object syndromes out there. I'm like, oh, hey, I can do this. Well, I got this business who's making me all this money. Well, I can do this, this, and this, and this. There's guys out there that do it. I'm not saying you can't, but for me personally, when I focus on one business and put 100% effort into it, I will grow that business a lot faster and scale it way better than you can when you have multiple. And it's kind of a fallacy, that whole Robert Kiyosaki, multiple streams of income, and Bob Proctor, all those guys. I've studied all of them, guys. It's not, but you have to get to a certain level and
keep it tight. You have to keep it tight and consistent, and whatever is working, keep it tight. And keep doing the same thing, because there is a lot of shiny objects out there, and it's very easy to follow the new shiny object, and then you lose attention from what actually is working, right?
Absolutely. Prime example, the business I just sold in January of 23 it was a very good business, provided a great living for me and my family. I sold to one of my third employee that I ever had in that business. He stayed with me for 15 years. I ended up selling it to him, got him set up where he could succeed, and we had systems in place. But the whole time I was doing that, I had other businesses out there that I was doing, messing on the side. When I turned it over to this guy who was my general manager, and he was running it for me while I was off doing my other things, but when he had full reins, he's grown it faster and done things that I didn't do. I'm like, wow, and I'm so excited for him because he's got his blinders on. I taught him from the time he was 18 years old till 32 to how to do this, and he's succeeding at it, but he's never done anything else. I had to teach him financial literacy. I had to teach him all the different steps in business, but he got there, and now that he's 100% focused, he's crushing it. Well, I jumped to another business that I had started in this whole time I was doing it, and it's crushing it, but I have put my blinders on, and it's exciting because it's we're in a production facility, and we produce things, we sell them to gardeners, and the neatest thing is I've been able to get into Walmart because I knew how to sell. I had financial literacy. I was able to get out of my comfort zone. I was able to do a lot of things that
you're selling product to Walmart. That's big, yeah?
Yeah, it's great. This is our first year doing it.
Wow.
But we're in 3,600 stores and it's really exciting. Plus we're on Amazon and our own website, walmart.com. And I'm not in any other retail besides some small mom and pops. But I'm like, if I can get figured out Walmart, now I'm in the process of studying and hiring other mentors. I've always had a mentor. There's a fourth thing. Have a mentor to teach you and pay for your mentors. Don't expect free mentorship. If you can't put 10% of your money, of your earnings back into yourself, you're not going to grow. So I right now have 2 different coaches. One is on the business side and one is on the production side, because I've never ran a production facility, but I've got one going, and I just hired a guy and he's helping me get things so we can put an ERP system in place and all these different things. And so you don't know what you don't know. So you go hire that and have them mentor you, or just bring them on to do it. And you don't have to be the one implementing. You don't have to become the production facility expert, but you just need to understand it and let them do their thing. And I really believe mentorship is huge, investing in yourself, and that goes back to the self-care. So what else can I help you tell some of your audience here? I think
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.